Get out the insurance cards, get out the co-pays. The office is open, my friends, as this video is brought to you by drroto.com.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Look Back podcast with Sam and Maddie. This is brought to you by drroto.com. Get your daily prescription of fantasy sports. Maddie, how are you? That game was underwhelming. We need to cover it. My goodness.
I don't know what is happening with Patrick Mahomes, what's happening with Travis Kelce, that entire offense.
Yeah, it's
no words.
No, there are no words. Games like that shouldn't have been as close as they were against the Giants. The Giants are definitely they're playing better than I think. I always underestimate the Giants because I don't never think that they're going to do anything decent. But even Daniel Jones had a decent night tonight. He had 20 fantasy points and he had 222 yards and a touchdown. Just loving the all twos stat line. Good job there, Daniel Jones, for making
Lots of twos.
Absolutely. Making it easy on all of us.
And they have half their team out with injuries.
And that's with dealing with so many injuries. So, hey, I mean, the more we're going to see these wide receivers continue to get hurt, just, mourning my Kadarius Toney shares and Sterling Shepard shares everywhere. I mean, Evan Ingram was able to get, a lot of looks tonight too. So maybe this is going to be a bit more of a boost for the tight ends in that situation.
I was actually pretty impressed with Ross. He didn't get a whole lot of touches, but he did make the most of a couple of them. It was like 2 for 70 some, I think.
Yeah. No, he looked good.
Yeah, 72.
Ingram had a single touchdown, which was great. He was 3 for 4 on his catches and targets. So they're definitely making a lot out of very little, and at least everyone's getting a little bit of usage. So if you're starting a Giant, they're likely to have some sort of floor that's usable in a week.
Something. And what was shocking to me is Jones looked more mobile than Patrick Mahomes did.
Yes. That was weird
Where
too.
Where did that come from? Totally different ball game.
One play we saw Mahomes kind of run out onto the sideline, and it looked like he kind of tripped over his own feet, or maybe he ran across the chain and he looked a little bit gimpy on one foot. So I don't know if that was just him aggravating an ankle injury or him getting a new one, but that's something to also monitor, because if he's not 100% and he just doesn't look 100%, that's going to affect how we're supposed to view him the rest of the season.
Yeah. Mentally, I don't feel like he's there 100%. When it comes to Patrick Mahomes and his runs, I try not to judge it just because he runs so weird anyways. He does this little fake injury run just for fun sometimes. I don't know what the deal is, but yeah. I don't know. If he's not 100%, maybe that has something to do with it. But a big thing with Patrick Mahomes is he's not making his reads. And when you're running an RPO offense like that, you have to be able to read. You also have to be able to utilize your run option if that's what you're doing. And when they had success, that's what they were doing, is they were capitalizing on what they were given, which was the run.
Yeah, which is also going to help open up the field so that you don't have every receiver with double coverage in the end zone, so that you can finally get a receiver open, so that people that are starting Tyreek Hill can let it rain touchdowns. That's what I've been waiting for.
Yeah.
I'm just going to train Tyreek Hill is what I'm going to do.
I mean, well, hopefully they figure out something, because fantasy owners for Tyreek Hill, just like you, are just bashing their heads against the wall right now.
Bashing my head against the wall. Like, you just see so much missed potential on all of these targets that are either just completely overthrown, or, like you're saying, he's just not reading the coverages, or he's throwing into traffic. He had one pass today that was into 3 other defenders with one receiver, and you're just like, I think the commentator was saying, oh, well, that's a smart pass by Mahomes, because at the very least they would have to punt right now. So it's okay to have an interception. It's never okay to have an interception.
No,
not
even give him too much credit. Little bit. They do. And it's frustrating because we've talked about this. He's getting sacked and just chunking the ball into traffic and getting it intercepted, when just throw it away, get it out of bounds. But he can't protect the ball. I don't know what's happening to where he thinks these are good decisions. I don't know if he's overly confident in himself or if he doesn't have enough confidence in himself. I'm so confused. because it's all over the place.
No, I completely agree, because a smart move would be when you are scrambling like he is, about to get tackled out of bounds, and he somehow still thinks that he needs to throw it, just to, chuck it out of bounds, throw it out of bounds. I mean, we know that he has the accuracy to do what he wants with the ball, but why would he throw it just blindly and just hope that his receivers are going to save him? Because that's going to be more interceptions, more pick sixes. You're just not setting up your team for success, and that's frustrating.
It is. Or just, you know what, take the L and take care of the ball on the way down, because there's a lot of times where his legs are already down and he tries to throw the ball. It's frustrating.
Absolutely. I mean, hopefully, I do agree. I hope they get the running game built in more. It looks like Darrell Williams still had a decent enough floor this week. He had 13 attempts and 49 yards, 6 for 6 on catches, and targets, 61 yards. That's good, but there should be a touchdown in that stat line. There should be.
There should be. It was wild to me because they were utilizing Gore more than they were Williams at the beginning.
Which confused me, because for a minute you see Gore and I'm like, I didn't know Frank Gore was on the Chiefs. And I was like, oh no, it's not Frank Gore. But you see the name. And
you see Gore.
I was like, no, that's not right.
It confused me for a second because I thought maybe Williams got hurt. I was like, did I miss something? Just trying to get dinner heated up, and I was like, I must be seeing things. No.
You're like, I must be really hungry, because I swear this just doesn't look right.
Something's not correct here.
Something is amiss. All right, let's talk about the two big injuries for the week. Let's start with Jameis Winston. So brutal, out for the season with the ACL tear. I mean, you hate to see it. I think that he was having a decent enough season. You're watching him kind of start to be the full leader of this team, and you were trying to see him come into his own. He had a couple good weeks. He had a couple really bad weeks, but it just sucks to see him out in the middle of the season like this.
I agree. And one thing that I like about Jameis Winston is he truly gives his heart.
Mm-hmm.
He just lets it all hang out on the field. He'll do what he can to make that extra effort. But you know what? It was a week for backup quarterbacks. And in the Saints case, the backup.
The backup of the backup.
He came to play.
He did. Trevor Siemian came and showed out, and he was just like, you know what? I'm going to make the most of this. He had a touchdown, 159 yards. You love it. And I mean, he even had, a cute little rushing attempt, just adorable. But I don't know if Taysom Hill is going to be out of the concussion protocol in time for their next matchup, but I'm kind of hoping that we see one more week of Siemian, just because I think we know what we're going to get with Taysom Hill. And what that is a lot more running out of him, which is great if you're starting him in a 2-quarterback format and you love his rushing yards. But what you don't love is how that's going to affect the rest of the offense.
Right. He also has a hard time protecting the ball.
Yeah.
He does not make great decisions. And I feel like Siemian at least knows when to stop, when to pull it back.
Definitely.
I say that. We saw one game, but
we have one game. It's a small sample size.
What was he? He was 16 for 29. But, he did a good job. He got the job done.
He got the job done. Kamara was still involved in the game, which if anyone is a fantasy manager of Alvin Kamara, that's what you're hoping for. He still had 4 targets, so at least he was getting looks there. You want him to get more, obviously, because that's where we get a lot of his value, because he's such a good threat in the passing game. But at least, it wasn't the worst of outings, and it was just a surprising game overall in that the Saints came away with the win.
I agree. I was super happy about the Mark Ingram little storyline that they had going on. His first couple catches, it was so sweet. Watching
poetic,
the crowd go crazy. Yeah. And you could tell that was the most alive that he's looked since he's actually like this entire year.
Yeah.
Since he left the Ravens.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's a very sweet story. Him obviously coming home, coming back to the Saints, and you can tell the veteran presence, and like that quintessential term we use when a veteran goes to another team, it does have an impact, and it had an impact on the players that he left in Houston. They were all very vocal about missing him with this trade, but also his teammates that were getting him back were very vocal about their excitement of getting him back. And that's, something that everyone loves to see.
Absolutely. And you see it like on Twitter, on Instagram, all that good stuff. He's constantly talking to Saints players, Ravens players, Houston players. It's just so sweet because he doesn't care. He just loves everybody.
Yeah.
I think it's really sweet.
I just missed this comment from our own John Danger. Sorry, John. I really appreciate you tuning in. He says that he thinks that Patrick Mahomes is still hiding an injury. I think there's something to this.
Possible.
Yeah.
It's possible.
We don't know how much tape is underneath those socks on those ankles. Totally a possibility.
But at some point, do you think he would stop shouldering all the blame if that was the deal?
No, I think that the other part of being a quarterback, being a lead of that team is being the voice of that and being the one to take that blame and dealing with other issues. And he's not going to, a good quarterback and a good leader of the locker room isn't going to go out in the press conference and say, yeah, all of my players are dropping all their passes. No one's reading their coverages. Everyone else is doing it wrong. You're going to take all that blame on yourself. And then you're going to be the one that says, yeah, we as a team need to do better and I need to do better. That's going to be the language that you see coming from him.
True.
So I'm not surprised.
I am surprised we haven't heard his fiance and or brother speak out more about things because we all know that they're vocal.
Hey, I mean, I think after his brother danced on the field inappropriately on someone's number, I think hopefully he'll stay quiet the rest of the season.
Just rein it in.
Just rein it in. Just be a little bit less. Just do less. But do you have any Saints players that you're worried about with this quarterback switch, or do you feel like you would need one more week to, push the panic button on anyone?
I'm not pushing the panic button on anyone. I'm really feeling Kamara right now.
Yeah. No, I love it. And I mean, even Traquan Smith had, 3 catches on 3 targets and a touchdown. So even he had a semi-decent floor this week for you in deeper league formats. If you're dealing with 3 wide receiver formats or even multiple flex positions, at least
Griffin was right there too. Because I had them as even kill in my notes.
Mm-hmm. They were even on catches and targets. There's definitely, it's a smattering of targets and points, but it's nothing that's, knocking us back and like, oh my gosh, so-and-so blew up this week. I think this is a wait and see. They have to readjust. The offense will readjust with if it's Simeon going to be under center for next week because, concussion protocol. Taysom Hill is still out. At least he's going to get a full week of reps with the ones. So we'll have to see one more week before we can really make any big decisions going forward on that.
I agree. One thing to note, though, is I've talked trash on Tampa Bay Secondary. They looked better this week. Like they weren't horrible. Mm-hmm. So everybody's talking about how they were up against a horrible secondary. And I get that, but they were a little bit better this week.
Not atrocious. Getting
Not
better.
Atrocious.
Yeah.
On the up and up.
On the up and up. Unfortunately, Derrick Henry is on IR. He's going to be having foot surgery tomorrow morning, likely out for the rest of the season. But some people saying that depending on how he heals on this surgery, should the Titans make it into the playoffs, he might end up being available. But obviously, for fantasy purposes, wouldn't be available for you at all.
Right.
Which is just,
it's so wild to me because I've seen people talking like that. He could be back for the playoffs. And then you see people, it's just like the same people who are all upset that he had that big of a workload that got him injured in the first place. And it's funny to me because if he does come back for the playoffs, in my opinion, I think he's rushing it.
John's tuning in and would love to see Gordon traded to the Titans. Hey, I'd love to see it too. I think that'd be a good move. However, the Titans did just sign Adrian Peterson. So even though you're saying pretty please, John, I don't think that's going to be the move. Although we do still have some time before the trade deadline tomorrow. It is at 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific. That is the trade deadline. So keep looking at those tweets of everyone to get the lowdown on who's made the moves, because the Packers have said that they're looking at making some moves, so they should be making a trade. Obviously, the Rams, they just got Von Miller. They're going all in. They could maybe do another trade. I mean, they've got so many receivers they could trade to another team. I wouldn't be surprised to see a receiver on the move from LA, but let's stay focused on Derrick Henry and this fantasy fallout from this injury. Obviously, the first thought would be everyone to go spend all the fab and pull up Jeremy McNichols, but even him, even though he was used a little bit in the passing game, it's nothing to get you that excited about.
Yeah, not much at all.
And the thing is, no one is going to be Derrick Henry, much like we could never expect Chuba Hubbard to be Christian McCaffrey. this is a far greater separation to me of what Derrick Henry is equal to other running backs. It would take at least three running backs to equal what Derrick Henry does.
At least. And
minimum.
He blocks for himself. So,
yes. So
how do you find that?
So you need three running backs, a couple offensive linemen, and a lot of things to break right for it to actually
maybe even a tight end in there somewhere to get a mismatch.
Danger's being all brutal. The Ravens signed Bell, blah blah blah. I know. He's out on McNichols. They will trade for someone. Yes, they just signed Adrian Peterson. He's there to save them. Which
how long do you think until he's pulled up off the practice squad?
Adrian Peterson? Not long. This man is also in that built different category, in that, yes, he is getting much older, but he is conditioned like no other. Like, I have never seen an off season look at Adrian Peterson.
He's getting old.
No, his body doesn't know it either.
He showed up to an OU game and I watched him do a flip like in the stands, multiple rows down, and he falls. Like, I'm not kidding you. He lands and he like kind of takes out like a lady and he jumps up and he's like, yeah. And I was like, how are you not hurt? How?
Oh my gosh. Yeah,
I know.
That's insane. I mean, like for me, obviously anyone that's in a very deep league, you're going to have to make any kind of picks to pick up anyone. But I do like Peterson. I feel like he has a lot of potential still. Maybe McNichols is used more in the passing game and Peterson used into that kind of more of an every down role because that's what he's used to anyways. And McNichols is already used in the passing game. So not looking for anything crazy out of both of them, but both running backs doing something in the semblance of what Derrick Henry was doing.
I will say that I think Adrian Peterson has good blocking potential. And so that will help for McNichols.
Yes, that will definitely help. And he also, the veteran presence, it's that quintessential term, but he's just such a smart player in the way that he runs and the way that he extends a play for others. I think that he's going to be a good asset for them there. But I mean, again, they could make another trade tomorrow.
They could. I really think that you're going to be able to get him cheap too. I truly do.
I do too.
At the bottom. People aren't.
I think everyone's going to say, "Oh, he's old. I don't want to even do that anyways." But I mean, running back by committee situations, you're never going to 100% know week in and week out who's going to be the number one guy. Like this past weekend, Melvin Gordon was, far beyond what anyone thought he was going to be in comparison to what Javonte Williams did. And anyone that has him is just like, oh no, this went wrong. And by the way, I called it last week in my Stock Watch article, and I was like, hey, Melvin Gordon's going to be the one to own here. Like, go ahead and make the switch now. So I feel a little bit better that I called that.
You know what's funny is whenever I read that, it made me backtrack a little bit. And I was like, nah, I'm just going to go ahead. So
yeah,
that's when it stinks the most.
Maybe Melvin Gordon gets traded tomorrow to the Titans and he becomes the every down back and Peterson is just there as a hype guy on the sideline, which is what he's done before too. So who knows?
Who knows?
I mean, none of us ever know.
Ever. I do know that I like Taylor.
Yes.
Talking about the opposite side of the ball here. Carson Wentz, man, sometimes when you want to talk about questionable decisions, I'm just like, that stresses me out. The 2 interceptions. It's just hard because I had them picked to win. That was my upset of the week. And I was like, dang. Super impressed with Pittman also.
Yes, I was just going to say Pittman, I mean, obviously with Hilton out, he's going to immediately step into that number one role. But with the 2 touchdown combo you love, 15 targets, 86 yards, I mean, just insane. And some of the ways that he was getting that separation too and his speed, it just made me excited for all the fantasy managers that have rostered him.
I agree. And I've heard people argue that 10 to 15, he only caught 10 of the 15. Mm-hmm. But in his defense, 3 of those were questionable throws that were just like, I'm going to throw this so it's not intentional grounding, but is that actually a catchable ball? I don't know.
Yeah, that's
So
probably
I'd like to
nuts.
put that out there. Big
And I think
Pittman
that's
fan
a
over
really
here.
good point, because I feel like he made a lot of tough catches, but also there were some that weren't really in his vicinity.
Yeah,
Shouldn't really be counted as targets towards him.
I agree.
So, I definitely hear you on that. Jonathan Taylor looking amazing too. Had a fantastic week, 16 attempts, 70 yards, and a touchdown as well. Still getting a little bit of usage in the passing game. He had 4 targets and 52 yards too, so you love that. I mean, I feel like the Colts are definitely starting to put everything together and be a team to be excited to watch. It's just the interceptions with Wentz and then that hesitation that really keeps me from being fully on board this train.
I agree. The offensive line looks beautiful. Now that they have Quentin back, they're executing things flawlessly, and I love to see that because that's where Carson Wentz thrives. But at the same time, it's frustrating whenever you're sitting there thinking you have so much time. You can shave your legs in the pocket and you choose to make that throw. Just frustrating sometimes. And
I
and
like
the
this
other thing
analogy.
is like it's almost like he knows that he has time, so he holds onto the ball too long. I'm just like, trust your gut.
Just gotta trust your
Don't
gut.
second guess it. Yeah.
All right. Another game that I'd like to bring up just because I'm very curious to see what's going to happen with this offense. But I fully expected the Browns to destroy the Steelers this weekend, which is why I didn't feel bad that I wasn't going to get to watch the game. I was doing Halloween shenanigans this weekend. So I was like, it'll be fine. I don't want to watch us lose anyways. I caught the last 5 minutes and was so pleasantly surprised and got the ESPN notification that Pat Freiermuth had an amazing touchdown, which was like a scrambling touchdown, but it still counted. Still, just what was up with the Browns this weekend?
I want to say for all of the people who said, why does Baker Mayfield hate his receivers? Watch this game. Just don't say anything to me until you go back and you watch this game. Why do the receivers hate catching the ball? He got zero help from any of his weapons.
I don't think that they really actually wanted to catch or receive or have any kinds of passing game yardage in this game. It just really nothing was clicking. Nothing was falling into place.
No. And I will admit the Steelers Watt played phenomenal. The Steelers defense was pretty decent. And I just felt like Baker did make some questionable decisions, but that's what Baker does sometimes. His receivers, he got no help. He got no help. It was him and Chubb. That was about it.
Yeah, but even Chubb had an underwhelming week. I mean, he only had 61 yards for rushing and one catch.
16 carries.
Yeah, 16 carries, but he only had a catch. One catch.
One catch.
So that's not even exciting either. I really think that this injury to Mayfield is going to only get worse in terms of fantasy output overall, because he is dealing with a torn labrum. He is going to have surgery on that. If you're dealing with something that's that painful, it's not going to get less painful the longer you go without surgery or without fixing it. You can keep icing it. That's great. Like, that's pain management. We get that. They have lots of protocols for this, but it's not going to get better. So I feel like there should be a big alert warning for any pass catchers in Cleveland, because it's not going to get better. You know, you could say better days ahead. No, there are no better days ahead for this situation as long as he is hurt. Yep. Because
it's going to become
even if Case Keenum ends up being under center a couple weeks in a row, I mean, he was a fantastic ball manager last time we saw him, but what also went off that week? The running game. So
because
again,
he can't throw the ball.
No.
Yeah. Case Keenum he's not a passer. Yeah. He's not a passing quarterback. There was one play where Baker got taken out on the sideline. It was a late hit, just got demolished. And everybody was holding their breath, and he just bounced up and he's like, ah, and I was like, oh, he's hurt. You can tell because he's trying to get his adrenaline going and he's going psycho. That's what he does.
Yeah, you know, which I appreciate the effort. You know, he slaps himself on the head on the helmet and he's like, no, I got this, I'm fine. And then he does that, and then you see him wince because he's moved something too quickly and he shouldn't. So, I mean, honorable for playing through this injury, but also he's still young and has a full career ahead of him. I feel like, I mean, he should just address the issue at hand, because what if he continues to play through this and then because he's playing injured, he ends up out of being in pain in a moment, making a bad move, and then getting hurt even worse, going and breaking a collarbone because he's going to take a tackle bad. And then he's going to have an even slower return, adding additional injuries onto the situation.
I agree. I don't think that logic is there, though. I think the only thing
No.
that's going to stop him is if somebody says you cannot play, and I don't think that the Browns appreciate him enough to say, "Go get it fixed. It's going to be fine. You'll get your contract. Let's move on." I don't think that conversation is happening.
No, I don't think it is either. But I also think that, with that wild man mindset of just playing through it, I also don't think he would hear if someone says, "Hey, but it's okay if you don't want, like, if you want to sit this week out." Like, I'm sure that's just white noise to him right now.
Oh, 100%. 100%.
It's brutal.
Yeah.
But D'Ernest Johnson is still a thing as long as Kareem Hunt is out, and he will be out in another couple weeks with his injury. And Chubb, I mean, they're playing Cincinnati next week, and that's the thing that has me questioning a bounce back for any offensive players for the Browns, because yes, the Browns have an awesome defense. Myles Garrett, beast that he is. Joe Burrow should be having a few sleepless nights this week just thinking about how many times he's going to get sacked. It's going to happen. But the Bengals are just rolling so well on offense. They did just get beaten this weekend, which was also surprising in the surprise column of the week. But I don't see the Browns being able to make it past the Bengals.
I don't either. I do think that it's going to be a lower scoring game because I think that the Browns will have a better time stopping the Bengals offense. But I also feel like it's going to be the same way on the other side of the ball. The Bengals are really good at shutting down the run. And so it's going to force Baker to make throws on that shoulder. And they're not going to be easy targets.
No. So. And again, this is a division game. This division plays for blood in every type of matchup, and it makes me nervous every time, even when I watch the rivals play. Like, I get nervous when I watch the Ravens play the Bengals because I'm like, someone's gonna get hurt. It's like when you go to a party and there's like guys from the gym and they showed up at the party and you're like, oh, someone's gonna get hurt at this party. That's kind of how I feel every time I watch this division play, because I'm like, there's just too much aggro-ness going on and there's all this hype going into the game, and I'm just like, someone's gonna get hurt, and then you watch it, it's like, yep, I called it, someone got hurt.
That's such a good analogy too, because everybody knows what you're talking about. We've all had that feeling.
Yes. Like some of these guys come into the party with a couple, like, they seem a little bit hot-headed and they've kind of got that walk going, and then they're kind of making eyes at like people across the room, and they're watching situations all like eagle-eyed, and you're like,
they're waiting.
There's gonna be a fight later. Like, just make sure we hide anything that's breakable. Like, that's kind of I'm sure how everyone feels when each of these teams visits each other, just like, oh, please don't destroy the stadium. Like, it's worrisome.
Yeah, I'm especially worried about Baker just because this offensive line, we've seen they're not great if they're not all together. If they can't be in unison, they're not as strong as what they are. And Baker's going to get a little darty, and I just have a bad feeling he's going to get taken out. This is going to be a hot take. I think that the Bengals are going to have a pick six. They're going to pick one and take it home.
I could see it totally happening.
I'm watching it happen in my mind.
I feel it's slow-mo. It's going to be a slow throw too. It's going to be one that didn't have enough behind it. That's just going to be like, oh no, there's no pepper on that. And it's just going to duck and totally be a pick six. I could totally see that happening. But let's talk about the team that beat the Bengals this weekend real quick before we sign off for the evening. The New York Jets. So Mike White.
Mike White.
He's a thing. Who had that on their bingo card for week
I don't know. I literally tweeted out, who TF is Mike White.
Who the F is this? Oh my gosh. It also looks like his photo on ESPN looks kind of like a yearbook photo that got cut out. It just kind of doesn't look like it fits in with the rest of them too.
It looks just Photoshopped too.
It does. It looks like, I think that they also, like, I Photoshop at work every day, and it doesn't look like they cut his neck right. Like, they kind of were like, no, we messed it up. It's fine. He doesn't need a full neck. Like,
405 yards. Who needs a neck when you have 405 yards?
And 3 touchdowns. Like, that's just delightful. Like, crying out loud. Not only that, but he made Michael Carter like an actual top running back for the week. Crying out loud. Everyone that was all pre-hyped on Michael Carter going into this season, it was just like, oh no, he joined the Jets and it was just downhill from here. Nope. All he needed was Mike White to just help him get the ball as many times as he did. He had 14 targets and 95 yards just in the passing game. Like, crying out loud.
If you're listening and you had to pick up Mike White because you didn't have any other options, I want to hear from you. I want to know what you're feeling.
Oh yeah, if they managed to start him?
Yeah. Like if you
God.
picked him up and you started him just because it was a last resort, you didn't know what to do. Like some people had Lamar this week. It was a bye. If you're I don't know. If you started
him, in a situation, restart him. Screenshot at us.
Also, I want to know, did you start him because you were desperate or did you start him because you were just feeling it? Because I'm very curious about the situation.
100%. But how do you feel about him being under center going up against Indiana this weekend?
Against who?
Against the Colts this weekend.
Oh, against the Colts. Sorry, I thought you said I'm not going to say what I thought you said. It's fine.
I was stuttering across Indianapolis and then abandoned the word halfay through.
Oh, no, you're fine. I was just like, did I mishear that? Honestly, I think that it's going to work out. I do. If Matt LaFleur calls the game like he did last week, I think that it's going to be a good game, but I think Mike White is going to hold his own.
I think he could. And what I love is that, as opposed to what Zach Wilson was doing, which is just trying to do the deep throws, trying to just make the big plays every single play, it felt like he was just trying to go for the Sports Center top 10 moment in every play that he was having.
Yeah.
And yes, he does have a cannon for an arm, and that's great. But until you're fully succinct in the NFL system, I don't feel like you should be throwing with that level of confidence. It's like he's writing checks his ass can't catch. Like, I just don't.
That's exactly what.
Doesn't make sense.
I agree. And I feel like they dialed back the offense for Mike White.
Yeah.
Because it was very basic.
They simplified everything. Yeah.
And it was beautiful. It worked perfectly.
Yep. And I mean, obviously the Colts I think they have a very good defense.
They have a great defense. Yeah.
They've got the Bills after that, and then Miami, and then Houston, and then Philly. So after the Colts, I mean, I feel like there's a couple decent weeks that he could be startable in a lot of formats.
I think so too. And I think that this is great for anybody who has weapons that are on the Jets. I never know how to integrate all of those special guys.
So, I mean, first of all, both of the running backs were very highly used in this. So both Ty Johnson and Michael Carter were used. Jamison Crowder got a lot of volume. Elijah Moore finally saw some volume as well. I mean, there was just a lot of little moments for everyone across the board, but not just little, they were big moments. Each of those players that I listed had over 10 fantasy points, over 12 fantasy points.
The Colts are good at not stopping the run, but slowing it down. So they are going to force him to throw a little bit more.
Yeah.
So I'd be watching for that.
But with their passing game usage, I think it'd be all right.
I think that he's going to be all right. I'm interested to see what he looks like under a little bit more pressure.
Yeah. We'll see. I mean, this will be a great test for him. He had a fantastic week, so obviously going to come kind of back down to earth a little bit, but just the normal style of play that the Jets have, I mean, they tend to always be playing from behind. That's kind of their MO, but at the same time, maybe that this is going to be finally the combo where they don't have to be playing from behind. Maybe.
We'll see.
We'll see. But Mike White is definitely going to be making my Stock Watch article for the week. What article do you have coming out? When's your next stuff coming out? Where can everyone find all the amazing Madi Kroll content?
So In the Trenches coming out on drroto.com. Usually comes out Friday. And then I'm on with Doc on Wednesdays for the first look, which has gotten to be really, really fun. We're a good time. Yeah.
Nice.
Almost as fun as me and Sam on Mondays. Almost.
Love it. Well, my Stock Watch article comes out tomorrow, and then the fantasy debate is, of course, out on Thursdays. Is that all I have? Yeah, then that's all I have.
And if you guys do read the article, make sure you follow the advice because you don't want to be kicking yourself like I was this week.
I don't get them all right. There are definitely some, and I should actually have a receipts article come out in the middle of the season so I can call myself out on the ones that I missed, because there's definitely a few I missed. but the Melvin Gordon one, nailed that one.
Nailed it. Nailed it.
Nailed it.
I did not.
It's okay. There's always next week, and that's what's amazing about fantasy football. You can be up this week or down this week, and then it'll be the opposite next week because you never know.
You never know. Hopefully it's all rolling in your favor, though.
Absolutely. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in, and thanks for listening to another episode of the Look Back podcast with Sam and Maddie. Check out all the other content, seasonal, and DFS tools, as well as premium access to our staff for your fantasy sports questions and the members-only Discord right here at drroto.com. Have a wonderful Monday night.
Bye, guys.
Thanks for stopping by the office. Get your fantasy prescription by subscribing to the channel and checking out drroto.com. And until the next visit, be well